Hello YouTube, what's going on? Now I guarantee that by the end of this video you will know exactly how to bridge up your stereo integrated amplifier to drive a single load subwoofer. This is quite simple and I'm going to explain it fully, so just listen carefully and you'll understand exactly how this works. Right, first things first guys, you only need to do this if you're running a single sub with a single voice coil. If you're running a sub that's dual voice coil, just run one coil per channel. The same with two subs, just run one sub per channel. You get the exact same output as you will in this case. You only want to do this if you want to use both channels for one load, one voice coil, one sub, okay? The first thing you're going to need to be able to do this is you need a mono output of sound. Now here I've used the subwoofer output of my preamp, so that is mono. I split it into two in order to get the exact same signal on both sides. On both my sides of my integrated amp I want the exact same signal, so you need to start it off with a mono signal that you split into two. If you haven't got, like I've got here, a mono subwoofer output, if you use a computer then you can always take a 5.1 sound card. Now this could be in the back of your PC as well as a PCI slot. Now see here you have this one which is called center sub, okay, this one right here, center sub. Now when you plug in a jack into center sub, one side is subwoofer, one side is center. Now if you grab the other side of this wire, that one will probably be subwoofer and that one will probably be center. First of all, work out which one's which. The one that's subwoofer, you need to get yourself one of these, do that with it, and then you can split it into two. So you need to go from a mono source, split it into stereo in order to plug it into the input of your amp, stereo like that, okay? So you need two signals that are identical for this to work. The next thing you're going to need for this to work is Audiobarn's APS-10. Now this is a phase shift inverter. This allows you to invert the phase of one of the channels, or both, but in this case we're going to invert one of the channels. This allows you to use both positives on the amp as plus and minus. I'll explain that later. Firstly, you can get this on eBay. I got it in the UK, I think it cost me £40 plus shipping, so it's quite cheap. If you're a US friendly, if you're a native of the USA, you can get it for $30 to $99. And because it's a car component, to power it, I've just used a really old, simple kind of transformer. It only needs 1 amp to work, so it was all fine. Just plugged it in there with a remote wire going around there, nice and simple to wire up. To hook this up to your amplifier and everything, all you do is you take your mono, split it into two with one of these wires, RCA splitter, hook up your left and right in there. This then goes into your input on the APS-10, which is here, goes through there, and then you simply plug the output of the APS-10 into the input of your amplifier. So just find the end of this wire, plug it into the auxiliary of this amplifier here. Nice and simple. Now that I've got it hooked up, I'm just going to demonstrate to you how this works by inverting the phase. So I've got Audacity open with a 50 Hz sine wave. Now I'm going to plug the Rotel speakers into the Technics just normally, left and left, right and right, so just normally hooked up. The left speaker in the left, the right speaker in the right. Now I'm going to show you what happens when I invert the phase. Right, now I've got this set so I'm hitting exactly 90 decibels at 50 Hz. Now let's see what happens if I invert the phase of the speakers. So they're now going out of phase. Completely lose all the decibels. I lose all the sound because the sound waves are inverted, yeah? Bring it back, 90 decibels. But they're still moving the exact same as they are when they're non-inverted. This is not turning them off. You can still hear the mechanical noise. Now if I were to slowly bring it out of phase, you can see what happens here. You slowly lose the bass. So you can see how important it is to keep your speakers in phase, yeah? So now I've explained to you how it works, let's hook up my subwoofer. Now it's single coil, so it's just one load. Now in the past, I know a lot of people, and myself in fact, have actually tried bridging the amplifier by connecting the positive to the one positive and the negative to the other negative of the other channel. Now this doesn't actually do anything different to that, because both of the negatives go to practically the same ground. So doing that is the same as doing that, pretty much. Okay, doesn't really make a lot of difference. In fact, it's just bad for the amplifier. In order to bridge the amplifier, we want to get the amplifier into a state where it's happy connecting both of these to both positives. Now this is what the audio barn APS can do. It can almost trick the amplifier into thinking that this second positive is actually a negative and the other way around. So I'll explain this in a minute. Let's just hook it up and show you how powerful this amplifier is on just one channel, and I'll show you the voltage that it clips at. About 25 volts that clips, 30 hertz, yeah, off just one channel. Now if I use the magic button on the APS 10 to invert one of the channels, I can now hook up the subwoofer to both positives on the amplifier. Now that that's hooked up on both positives, let's plug it back into the sub and let's test it out on 30 hertz again and see what readings we get on the voltmeter and see how much power this amp can kick out when bridged. So this is with both positives plugged in now, okay? I've got to be really careful with my sub because this is almost too powerful for the sub. Fucking hell, but that was really pushing the sub hard. I think it's only 200 watts RMS this sub. Get too warm, I think. Let's unplug the sub and show you it just on the voltmeter, okay? To prevent damaging my sub. Fucking hell. Look at that. Look how many volts that is. So as a result of this test, my sub isn't even powerful enough. But you could tell by that at 30 volts I was still being able to crank it and my sub was getting pretty warm. I didn't want to push it any further than I already was. So there you go. Hopefully this has explained to you how to get a lot more power out of your integrated amplifier if you're using one sub with one coil. Just be careful because your amplifier will be a lot more powerful, so make sure you buy a sub that's in the right power range. This one's not quite powerful enough. And also make sure that you set this up right. You have to have both the activate buttons depressed, active buttons, and only one invert button depressed, okay? So the only button that should be popping out is this inverted one. They all should be pressed in apart from this one. Make sure these knobs are turned right down as well to the 0. I would only recommend doing this to amps like this. Nice, simple, stereo integrated amplifiers that don't alter the signal in any way. Don't do it to something like this. If you don't want to go out and buy a big powerful PA amplifier and you just want some good power for in your room and you know you've got one of these hanging around and you haven't got much money and you're not going to be using it for much, or you're just using one channel and you want to make use of both of them, then this is for you. Now before you go and do this, there's something really important you need to know about impedances. If it's 4 ohms stable at each channel, then when you bridge it, it's only 8 ohms stable on the 2 positives, okay? Now you can run it at 4 ohms at your own risk, okay, depending on how strong you think your amplifier is. I ran it at 2 ohms just now because this sub is 4 ohms. So by using it bridge on both channels, each channel sees 2 ohms. It might get a bit hotter, but it's up to you. Just be careful and do it at your own risk. And that's how you do it. If you guys got any questions, hit me up a comment, hit me up a message, ask anything about how this works, how to set it up for yourself if you're not too sure. Watch the video over a few times. It might be quite a lot to take in, okay? But this does work if you do it right, and it's quite safe if you know what you're doing. So good luck, and I look forward to some videos of this actually being done by some people that have seen this video. So take care.